I do want to thank the CPI for letting me speak today and all of you souls at home watching right now. So my name is Mícheál Madden. I'm a member of the Democratic Socialists of America. I'm in the Red Star Caucus, which is a local communist caucus in San Francisco. I'm also one of the two newly appointed chairs to the DSA's National Labor Subcommittee of the International Committee, which is tasked with international relations. What I want to do today is convey a rounded picture of the dynamics of what is actually happening internally within the DSA, right? Because it's a lot of things that, frankly, the left not involved in DSA doesn't talk about or know very well. That's what I'd like to do with my time, and I want to just jump right into it. What we've witnessed in the past 4 years is a ballooning of the organization under this kind of Sanders-friendly umbrella of social democratic ideas, right? Many people want to point to this as the reason for DSA's growth, right? But in actuality, the trigger for the explosion in membership was the election of Trump. It was the failure of the Democratic Party to get anything done about stopping Trump. It was after Trump that we saw what members were calling internally the Trump bump, as like a funny, funny joke. We saw this again later with the Black Lives Matter movement this summer. That is an increase in interested parties and in membership, as well as the current recruitment drive of ours to reach 100,000 members by the election in November. We are currently a 70,000, 75,000 member organization. That doesn't mean that all those people are active every day of the week, right? Some of them maybe make a once a month meeting. So to move on, this narrative of Sanders pumping up the organization was pushed by people with control and that have ties to things like Jacobin, for one, in large part, which does a good job, Jacobin magazine, of masquerading as DSA's official outlook and opinion on the world, even though it doesn't actually have organizational ties to it. It still has many on the writing teams and the staff involved in DSA. DSA has its own publication, Democratic Left, right, just for example. So there's a narrative out there that Sanders was the one getting us all of this attention, he's responsible for all these people joining, and that participation in his campaign was going to yield wide results when he was inevitably cheated out of the nomination, right? Well, that didn't happen. And those numbers partially materialized, but not in the way that it was hyped up. For example, there are national caucuses in DSA, right? We've got things like Bread and Roses, Socialist Majority, are two large reformist caucuses who have essentially run with this logic for their own benefit. Now, this is interesting to me because I actually know people in these caucuses, and they're very well-educated Marxists. So it's strange. There's really just an interesting divergence of opinion. But they are known for doing things like back-channel arrangements, skirting around national resolutions, basically maintaining an informal network of control via undemocratic appointments and holds on seats in the organization in order to maintain their control. So now this plan started to crack up and is now in the process of evaporating because more and more insiders in the organization were becoming aware of what was going on with them. So the failure of the Sanders campaign kind of revealed this. The reformist wing of the DSA is now on the back foot. They don't have anything outside of local city reforms really to offer the membership. And these Joe Biden arguments are now surfacing inside of the organization. The Socialist Majority Caucus recently circulated a petition gathering support to defeat Trump, right? But if you read the language, it's clear they're asking people to skirt around our convention and convention resolutions without saying his name, ask membership to sign on to a pledge that basically results in a get out the vote effort for Biden, right? This is not popular with our membership. So if it betrays our convention decisions, our resolution on the 2020 elections that no other candidate was to be endorsed or aided via the resources of our organization election in 2020. So the ongoing project, right, is a construction of a left wing inside of DSA. 4 years ago, this originally united many local communist groups around a national caucus known as Refoundation in the early DSA convention after 2016. Pardon me. But since then, for various reasons, the network dissolved. But this can mainly be put down to the fact that these collection of groups didn't have sustainable bases in their own localities, right? However, these groups still operate on chapter levels. Some still maintain broad national caucuses. Oh, am I already over time?
No, continue.
Okay, wonderful, thanks. I looked at the chat and got distracted. But yeah, give me a heads up. Wonderful. Since then, right, for various reasons, this network dissolved, not based in local groups, as effectively as it should have been. But we are regrouping our collective efforts for next year's convention within DSA. So there's already a meeting and planning in the works for this. These groups are engaging with each other again. Some of us have constituted an editorial board shared between 4 of the communist caucuses, which I sit on. It's rather a lot of editing, but it can be fun sometimes. Red Star members, and I'm talking about San Francisco here, DSA members, helped organize the Anchor Steam Brewery in San Francisco. They organized a local vet hospital that's run by the Mars Corporation here. They unionized the Tartine Bakery here, very famous, profitable bakery franchise, right? Known at a few locations in California. Most of this work was done by skilled, experienced union organizers who are members. Also, it was assisted by our labor organizing committee in San Francisco, which is set up to direct people towards support for these campaigns, right? I sat on that committee. I was its head for a brief moment for a year. But each time there's a failure of reformist planning, each time anarchist tendencies within the organization fall short of creating the force needed to focus on a campaign, each time there's an argument over charity work versus worker organizing, we win people over to our position. They join our caucus. So it's a slow but sure process. And about 1/2 or maybe 2/3 of this membership, right, are liberals and anarchists, people whose personalities benefit the most from a devolved committee structure, from disorganization, from decentralization, right? Things that communists don't normally jive with. Liberal ideas of individual freedom, do what you want and not have centralized, focused command structure. And they think somehow that's magically going to throw up the conditions for a better world, right? On the other side are the communist caucuses who slowly benefit as members go through their own lived experience of dealing with our internal politics and are won over to our side. Not even necessarily because of our political positions, but because we substantiate a lot of visible leadership. We take leadership positions, and so we form trust, we form bonds, relationship building. San Francisco's Red Star, although it's a small membership, almost exclusively SF members, our caucus is looked to by many contacts across the US because of our successful chapter work, because of our analysis, our writings we post to our sites, the fact that even though our platform is very broad, in order to collect disagreeing communists together, right, is more specific than probably any of the other Communist Caucus platforms. And so we've been specific in that program since 2016 about the need for a workers' party. And that's also something that attracts interest. So many people reach out to us because we actually hold some opinions about that, whereas others apparently do not discuss it as much. I feel like I'm going to run out of time. I'm going to cut some of my points here. The point I want to illustrate with the report is that many on the outside and small sects of leftists in the US dismiss the DSA, right? Take for granted the narrow national statements and positions taken by the national leadership are reflective of the entire spectrum of thinking inside of the org. And thereby they write off not only the communists inside who are active, but also the opportunity to speak to currently the widest available audience about what it really means to be a socialist, right? People who are just coming to socialist ideas and conclusions are being told by caucuses like Bread and Roses, pro-Sanders people, that socialism is just loving Bernie Sanders, right? But this is a wide open opportunity for those of us who subscribe to left ideas to intervene, to engage these people, especially when the inevitable drift of reformist politics disappoints them. So I'm going to, thank you very much, Simons, I appreciate it. So the reason I'm speaking to you and freely with this information is because I genuinely do not believe in sectarianism. I'm against it. I believe the DSA is like a large connective tissue for the broad left of the US, right? But I will say personally, this is my personal opinion. Thanks for the point. That if you are a leftist in the US today, you haven't joined a DSA chapter, you're missing being able to communicate with a wide array of viewpoints inside this organization, right? If you join DSA, it's not a centralist organization. You can do whatever the hell you want. You're under no obligations except to pay your monthly membership. You can hold educationals on documents written by Ho Chi Minh, right? You could build a reading group on wage, labor, and capital. You could join one that's already happening because there's lots of them. But if we are to achieve revolution, we must engage with each other, right? We must engage in support work across groups, be willing to engage with people who disagree with us, and form relationships. Because if our ideas are correct, then let's engage with people and let's prove the correctness of our ideas in practice. That is how we recruit. That is how we build a socialist movement. DSA is an organization in transition. And again, this is my opinion as well. These tensions between reformism and people who believe in revolution have to change. They can and will change. They might result in a split. They could result in further radicalization of the entire organization. We don't know yet, but we have to differentiate between empiricism, making conclusions based on visible data and outcomes, right? And dialectical reasoning, right? Which is understanding what causes those outcomes, the tension between the opposites inside of this organization, because it's going to force evolutionary change. Unforeseen events are going to take place just like they have this year. And so therefore we have to look at the situation, as all political situations, not as static, but focus on the dynamics at play so that we may make predictions about the future, because that's what good leadership does. It makes predictions.